All right, it is noon and on the East Coast, and the goal here is to keep everything compact and moving quite quickly, making sure that we have time for everybody who to come in, engage, and get back to whatever the burning question is on their mind. So, greeting everybody. While people are still coming in, just want to introduce A-Round, then do some super quick introduction because August has a lot to say, potentially going over that 15 minutes of actionable content. We'll see.
We'll see.
And and also I do want to give great introduction to August, and August, thank you for being here and being one of our founding presenters. So
So glad to be here, Josh. Really love the community that you're putting together here of A-Round founders.
Yeah. So that's exactly what this is. The goal here is a community of, as it says, community decision makers focused on software startups who are in their A-round or are reaching towards their A-round. So in addition, if you're bootstrapped, as long as you're doing business, this is a place for you as well. So as a bootstrapper myself, I want to make sure that I include people like me. So if you are, this is open. It's streamed on LinkedIn Live. Anyone can join. Anyone can benefit. The community members are able to go and interact more on the, in this case, Google Meet, the WhatsApp group, and have a bit more interaction. So what is a decision maker? The decision maker's obviously a founder. It could be a head of department, VP, or a C-level of any portion of the company. This may include engineering. It might include sales. It might be a CRO, VP of customer success, head of engineering, and these types of members. So why do this? For the people that are logged in, what I like to do in the first 5 minutes is to just have a quick moment to talk about what we're doing, and then have a moment for each person, or as many people as we can get. So the idea is that everything here is actionable intelligence, right? This is not a pitch session. This is an actionable takeaway based upon what the presenter, in this case, August's, his expertise. So the idea is generally a 15-minute presentation, leave 10 minutes for discussion, and you have at least an actionable takeaway that you can go and do on your own that is relevant for people in this phase of the company that they're building. So just to begin with, and I know this is split between people on the live and people in the meet. The first 5 minutes, introduce yourself, name what your role is, what your company is, and what you're looking for. And so in this situation, because I'm focusing on A-Round here, I would say, hi, I'm Josh Rosenthal, community manager at A-Round, and I'm looking for leaders at startups to join A-Round. So I probably now should include, now that we have LinkedIn Live, I should probably include that it's viewers in the LinkedIn Live, people that follow A-Round on LinkedIn, and also people to participate that are members here. So August, I actually want to start with you, and then
Sure.
Neil, since you were in early, and then I think that I should, just for sake of time, just kick it over to you, August. So introduction, Neil, and then I'm going to bring it on back to you to make the presentation.
Okay. So would you like me to introduce myself in the format
Absolutely.
that you?
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, happy to do so. So my name is August Jackson. I have two roles currently. I am the Vice President of Strategic Intelligence at Workday, and I am also the founder of Compete to Grow. Speaking about Compete to Grow, I am bringing the lessons of strategic market and competitive intelligence to small business owners and founders.
E- Excellent. Mr.
I learned
Neal.
from the best.
Mr. Neal, are you able to come off mute? Do you want to go and introduce yourself as well? Okay. Sorry to call you out. And if there's anyone else in the meeting that wants to go and join and make a quick message, please. Okay. All right. Thanks for the. Okay. Got a couple DMs. Mr. August, it's on to you.
Okay, excellent. Now we're going to see how well I know Google Meet to see if I can share a window effectively.
Yeah,
Josh, will you let me know when you can see the 5 key pieces of pricing intelligence to win?
absolutely. And I'm going to go and focus in on the stream, and you should be ready to go.
Okay. Can you see my screen? Excellent. Appreciate that. Really excited to be here today to talk about the benefits of competitive pricing intelligence. I've been doing competitive intelligence, strategic intelligence, market intelligence in various forms for over a quarter of a century now, mostly with large organizations like Verizon, British Telecom, Ernst & Young, and Workday. And I've always believed in my heart of hearts that there's so much value for small business owners and entrepreneurial founders to apply some of the basic lessons of competitive intelligence to their own businesses. And so today I'm going to be speaking about pricing intelligence, particularly in a business to business context. In the course of doing that, I'm going to be talking about a methodology called win-loss analysis that I believe is one of the highest return on investment activities that any small business owner or founder can engage in. At its fundamental level, that means talking to your buyers and talking to your prospects in some period relatively soon after the pursuit or the buying process. And what you want to do in that win-loss exercise is understand who you were coming up against, who you were displacing, or what solution you were displacing, why you won or why you lost. And in the course of this, you'll get this really great perspective on the voice of the buyer and the voice of the prospect that is really fantastic for small business owners and founders to increase their cycles, to speed the feedback loop and mechanism that's so vital to things like agile methodology or to lean startup methodology as well. So, really increasing that perspective and getting those insights into your go-to-market strategy really, really quickly. Now, one of the most important elements of your go-to-market is your pricing and your packaging. And that's what we're going to be talking about specifically today, and some of the insights that can come from good win-loss activity, really simple exercise or a set of activities to engage in as well. And get this insight so that you can compete to win in a competitive pursuit. Now, when we're talking B2B, I feel like I need to talk a little bit about segments as well, because we have in B2B context, we have everything from a small business all the way up to a large enterprise. And pricing happens differently in each one of these segments. Small and medium businesses tend to be more price takers, kind of like consumers, actually. And if you think about products or services that you're buying as a small business owner, you're going to a website, for example, and the pricing is right there. You're putting things in your cart and you're clicking buy and off you go. And if you're competing in that market segment as well, the pricing is highly, highly transparent. Now, what I'm about to tell you about pricing intelligence is still valuable and insightful for how you can design a strategic price and package strategically to win in that context as well. And this becomes even more vital. This pricing intelligence feedback becomes more vital when you move into the enterprise segment, because now you're dealing with a customer segment that is not necessarily a price taker. There's negotiation involved in those deals. Those deals are highly complex, where two customers that are ostensibly buying the same quote unquote thing might pay very different prices because of the options, service bundles, deployment, all of the service level agreements, all of the different things that go into a, a larger enterprise sale. And that's the main segment that I'm talking about today. But even owners or founders or executives that are selling into the small and medium business segment can still get a lot of value from this conversation today. And one of the things there are two key things I really want to get out before I get into the five key pieces that I'm going to take you through in just a moment. And these are misnomers or mental traps that sometimes people fall into when they think about pricing. And the first thing is that to compete and win and use price as a tool does not always mean being the lowest cost provider as well. Some people, they feel like in order to be competitive, they always have to be the lowest cost of any option that a prospect might be evaluating. And that's not the case. This is really about aligning your price proposition and your packaging with the value that the prospect sees. And then secondly, the other mental trap that sometimes I've seen companies fall into is the premise that they need exact and precise competitor pricing, which when you think about the complexity of some of these deals, is kind of absurd on its face that anybody would think that they could even get that level of pricing intelligence. But sometimes people feel like, well, if I don't have perfect information, how can I do anything useful or competitive in applying pricing intelligence in a situation with, let's say, vague understanding of a competitor's price position or how they price. And the reality is there's a lot you can do. And I'm going to take you through these five key pieces of pricing intelligence that are all readily achievable with even the most rudimentary of win-loss programs, where you're taking the time every once in a while to speak to some of your buyers and some of your prospects. You don't even have to speak to all of them, to say, hey, who are we displacing? Who are we facing? What did you like about them? What did you like about us? Why and how did you make the decision that you made? Really simple interview methodology. So let's talk about the five pieces of competitive information that you can use to really position price to win in a competitive pursuit. The first is a straightforward awareness of you and your leading competitors' relative price position and how that aligns with the buyer's perception of your value. Now, there are a lot of words in that sentence, so I'll give you a simpler version of that is, are you a Rolls Royce or are you a Yugo? And are you priced appropriately for what you are? And what about your competition as well? Where are they on that Yugo to Rolls Royce spectrum, and where are they relative to price? The second thing that you want to get a sense of is your competitor's propensity to discount. And you'll get this perspective very, very quickly in your competitive pursuits when you're coming up against a particular competitor. And this really has to do with the question of, do they stand pat on a price that they offer, let's say early on in a pursuit process, or do they have a tendency to negotiate their pricing down? I faced all kinds of competitors. I faced competitors that will, sharpen their pencils and drop their drawers and go from, a 10x proposal to all the way down to X. So they just absolutely drop the price. And I've also competed with companies that have gone in with a premium price and have come back through subsequent negotiation rounds and have focused on selling on the value that justifies that price. Whether that's stability, lack of risk, the value or the cost savings they drive in the customer's business, or the brand reputation of nobody got fired for buying IBM. something like that. So all those different levers that can tell you whether or not a competitor is going to discount or they're going to stand pat. The third factor is, how do they approach pricing in a complex pursuit? So this is taking that first question of do they discount or not, and then thinking about, okay, how do they do it? And I've faced competitors that go in low and say up front in the beginning, hey, we're discounting heavily, and this is the discount we're offering you off of the list from the start. And then they kind of stand pat there. And I've also faced competitors that will sharpen their pencil and then sharpen it again and then sharpen it again over the pursuit, multiple rounds of a pursuit, and expect to get to a selling price. Now, this becomes fun when buyers' expectations or behaviors change with respect to negotiation rounds. One of the things that I've observed over the last couple years is that there are fewer rounds in these big B2B pursuits. So the expectation is generally that you're coming in earlier in a pursuit with your, if not best and final offer, at least a pretty good and final offer. And some vendors that come in and start at list find themselves um, booted out of opportunities when they expected to have two or three bites at the apple with a prospect. So knowing where your prospects are on that negotiation expectation is really vital. Win-loss will give you some of those insights. So those are the first three items that you need to know. Let's talk about item number 4. And this really has to do with bundling and packaging, and has a lot to do with framing as well. You are telling a story with how you present your pricing to a prospect. And it is a story that competitors can tell about you as well if they know how you position or how you package and present pricing. And this often has to do with, are you presenting all these complex features and capabilities and components of the typical enterprise, particularly a technology sale? Are you presenting that as a bundle or a package that has very little visibility into the piece parts of it? Or are you one of these companies that goes in and itemizes everything, and it's, here's what we're charging you. I'm going to pull on my telecom experience for a second here. Here's what we're charging you for the local access line from your office location in Munich to our point of presence. And here's the backhaul from that point of presence to the backbone, and on and on and on. And I've seen companies come in all over the place on this. Now, one thing to be aware of too is I've seen companies that tend to bundle also sometimes strategically input what I'll just call a subsidized price on an itemized item, that then, because they know if they're coming up against a company that presents a very itemized pricing, if they can anchor the prospect's point of view on your price point relative to one item they know you're going to itemize, they can start to make you look expensive, or they can start to make you look cheap depending on what suits their purposes. So you have to know that your competition is looking at you and framing their pricing in this way. And I know that's a little bit of 12-dimensional chess, but trust me, if you do some win-loss, you will get this visibility very quickly. And it's hopefully, I know from experience, hopefully you will understand and take some confidence from what I'm saying here, that it's easier than it sounds. And then finally, what non-price levers do they pull? So when you get outside of pricing, there's all sorts of factors that you can consider. There are payment terms, there are price guarantees for whether or not the price will increase at a particular percentage at renewal time. There are volume discounts, and there are so many other factors that can come into consideration, particularly on a long-term contract. So those are always things to keep in mind. And again, a win-loss methodology will give you visibility into that. And as I said before, this may sound like a lot, but these insights are readily achievable. And with a consistent, structured win-loss and competitive intelligence program, a founder or an executive in a startup or a small business can get really great insight that speeds that feedback loop on the voice of the buyer, particularly as it relates to pricing, which is such a difficult question to get answered. And it does get exciting when you start to work with your product team. And maybe you are your product team if you're a founder who's bootstrapping, and your finance team. Maybe that's another hat you wear as well, so that you can reflect this and incorporate this into your product pricing and into how you structure a deal. And then when you work with your sellers and your revenue team to out negotiate and outmaneuver the competition. And ultimately, what you're trying to do is link your price, or what the prospect sees as your cost, to the unique value that you create for them. So, Josh, that's my pitch on pricing intelligence, with a little bit of win loss thrown in just for spice. I'm happy to open it up to questions if anybody has them.
Excellent. So we've gained even more people that are in since this started, and
I've seen that.
yeah. So for each person here, and I don't want to call you out live, but I did get a couple messages along this time. So come off mute and bring it to August.
Will I be able to hear people on LinkedIn Live since I'm on Meet?
You will not be able to hear people on LinkedIn Live. I can
Okay.
go over
Okay.
and look for some of the messages, but one of the differentiations is people inside of the meet are able to go and interact, and people on the live are
I
able to watch.
see.
Yep.
Okay.
So let me head on over, and I know that there was an audio issue on LinkedIn Live. Hopefully that's resolved now. But let me see.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Sorry to
see
hear
what
that.
anyone has to say. Um, People on the meet. Oh, here we go. Here's someone's. You can come off mute and just speak if you like. Or okay, I can read until then.
Hi.
There you go.
Hey, okay.
Hey, Jean-Francois.
Oh, hi. Hi, August. How are you? Hi, Josh.
Hey.
Greetings.
Good. Nice. Very interesting. And I like the perspective, the win-loss perspective and all that. Um, sometimes when I do, sorry, sorry, when I do win-loss interviews, I see that people tend to refrain from giving too much information in terms of the competitor's price, for obvious reasons, in terms of they don't want to say too much because it's going to reveal too much, and it's going to hurt them in terms of negotiation. And I was wondering how you handle that
Mhm.
in that
One
setting.
of the That's a great question, and that is a scenario and a situation that people do face when they're trying to engage in those conversations. So one question I had, it sounded, Jean-Francois, like that perhaps maybe you were still in the deal in this case. Am I hearing that correctly?
Sometimes it's within a deal, and sometimes it's
Mhm.
after a real a loss interview, not a win loss, but a loss interview. But it's not
Mhm.
during the deal.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that's the case, because a valuable win-loss interview will take place after
Yeah.
the deal has closed. And I feel a little embarrassed. Ella Naylor just joined us, and she is
Yeah.
literally the expert on win-loss. So it's a little like having your professor show up for your PhD dissertation or something like that.
Hi, Ellen.
But Ellen will keep me honest here. The win-loss interview, taking place after the deal is closed, is always ideal. I do find that prospects will open up more readily if the win loss is being conducted by somebody who was not involved in the deal as well. So it can be somebody who is tapped to do competitive intelligence, or and participate in win loss from your organization, or it can be a third party that can do that as well. And if you think about, you open up sort of additional levels of willingness to say the truth based on how removed from the deal the person doing the interview is. One of the things I find too, in discussion of pricing is the frame of the question of how you're asking about competitor pricing. And what's always been helpful for me is when I do something with that called bracketing.
Yeah.
Is, I understand the prospect might be unwilling to say exactly what the pricing is, and that sometimes mentally is their block when you ask, well, you chose, competitor B, what was their price? And really what you're looking at, and you can do in bracketing, is say, well, were they 10% less expensive than us, or were they 50%
Yeah.
less expensive? And so then you're getting a bracket and you're getting a range. And over a consistent win-loss program, you'll narrow that range of where they really are relative to you. And that really is what you're looking for. And so sometimes prospects wanting to be very helpful will fall into that block of, oh, you're asking me their price. And so, well, I don't know, was it, 450 per user per month, or was it 475? I don't know the answer to that, so I'm going to decline to answer the question. And bracketing kind of gives them that off ramp to not feel like maybe they're giving you too much information, or they're giving you information that they don't have to hand, but information that they do know.
Yeah. Great. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Ellen, you're on. I can see you speaking, but you're on mute. If you want to unmute yourself.
Okay,
There we
I've
go.
unmuted. I just thought I'd bring something up about pricing. Often enough, they'll tell you this was one of our decision-making criteria early on, and then later on in the call, what you're just saying about bracketing. The other thing I find, though, is a lot of times they don't even understand what the pricing is. It was so complex, they don't actually know what the pricing was. There's installation cost or upfront cost, there's maintenance fee, there's annual fees, there's all these different fees. And that's another thing I find with these calls is bracketing doesn't even work, because what are we bracketing? One competitor doesn't include the installation costs, for example. It's all included in the monthly fee, or it's all put together in maintenance. So it's really hard to do an apples to apples with some of these complex deals, which I'm sure you've been involved at with Deltek and BT and all the places you've been. But I find that over time, pricing has become so damn complex that you almost need to have the procurement people talking to each other, which is the last thing you really want to do in a win-loss call. But you almost need to have that happen if you really want to know about pricing, to know what are the components of pricing. Never mind the bracketing. What was included? What's included? What do I get? And I know for myself, even just getting involved in win-loss calls, I have to often ask the customer, explain to me your pricing. Tell me all the piece parts to it, because I can't begin to understand it. Some of them, others it's pretty straightforward. But the ones that are doing win-loss, a lot of times it's not straightforward. It's like, yeah, what's been your experience? I mean, I think these are good things to bring up with folks.
Yeah, and that's why I made the framing point, actually, because and that's a great example. If we're talking about, for example, software as a service, is the deployment bundled, or is that a separate line item? Is it paid for the same way? Is it an upfront cost versus something that is, build over time that varies? And that's just another example of why that framing is so vital as well. So absolutely agree with you. And it can be very difficult to understand apples for apples. Anytime I've been on the buy side, I've really tried to control the price presentation as much as I possibly can. I can be a bit of a stickler for, please show me the pricing in the way that I asked you to throw it to me, quite honestly,
Yeah.
because in an effort to get to that apples to apples.
And also the financing. You kind of alluded to that. Financing is a big deal too,
Yeah.
And the other one that comes up in pricing that isn't always so straightforward is you find out the person who won the deal, they won because they had another product that really works well with the product that's being sold. And no one had any idea about that till you did that call, till you had that call.
Yeah.
I've had that happen too, where I'm like, oh, They didn't even know this company was a competitor, A, and B, they did not know that this competitor offered it and already has installed at the customers a very good piece of software. And it just so happens that their pricing software, or whatever it is you're selling, works very nicely with it. And
Mhm.
they had no idea about it. Anyway, I
Good
think
point.
it's interesting. I'm sorry I came onto your call late. I couldn't figure out how to get on.
Hey,
Wait a minute, he's on this one.
I'm glad you're here.
So I want to
Yeah.
hear the real thing.
So first, yeah, it did appear that there was an issue streaming out onto the live. I think that Gina went and shared the URL to get on the meet, which Ellen, I see
Yeah.
that she interacted with you. I think I had posted the link as well. Everyone can join, and then I'll go and make sure that the recording of this gets, becomes available for
Yes,
everybody
please.
else. And that
Yeah.
way, people like you that suffered due to our immature processes can benefit from everything that was delivered.
All right. Maybe one last question, if anybody has one.
No?
Sounds like we've
I-
addressed everything.
okay. Let's see. Let me just go through and read any comments that I've received just because, actually, let's not. It appears that we're over time. So to keep everything tidy, everybody, thank you for joining us on the live. Everybody, hopefully the audio issue has been resolved there. Everyone that joined on the meet, obviously, thank you for being here. And, be in touch. Would love to have you, everybody get more active on the community inside of the WhatsApp group. Everyone's able to message everybody directly. That's one of the benefits. There's no cost to join, and it's just a group that I'm just trying to bring together of like-minded leaders. Those people that are that have raised an A round, are working to raise an A round, and are leaders in their respective discipline at those type of companies, whether funded or sufficiently bootstrapped. So August, absolutely, thank you very much for being here. Every time we get together, I enjoy it, and thank you for being so kind as to come on out so early in the A round life. So
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Josh. Happy entrepreneuring, everyone. And Josh, go Terps.
take care.
Thanks, August. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Right.
August.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks,
And
Jean-Francois.
Ellen, I love your new book.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm still trying to record the damn thing and I keep having health problems. So I keep pushing it out. I've done only one recording session, 2 more to go.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right. Good stuff.
Hang about. Hang about.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I lost Josh. Give him another minute. I got to jump to work. Okay.